Nomos is a hidden watch gem in the watchmaking world. It's affordable, it's elegant, and it's minimalist, and not in a Daniel Wellington kind of way. They just released a version of their Club Sport with a steel bracelet. These are my thoughts. Nomos has 3 lines of the Club family: the Sport, the Campus, and the Automatic Date. They all have the same fundamental design language in the form of a minimalist rounded case, which is highly polished. It has colorful dials and slightly long lugs, which I'll return to. The differences primarily come down to the movement inside: automatic versus manual, date, no date, or quick set date, size, and water resistance. When talking about the design language, the concept often associated with Nomos is Bauhaus. This minimalist, keep it simple aesthetic that you associate with German simplicity and Nordic fashion. The Club, as far as I'm concerned, is the least Bauhaus of the Nomos watches, with an aesthetic that is far more youthful, playful, and extroverted. Nomos wants these watches to be fun, lighthearted, and ultimately youthful. The Club Campus is even directly marketed as the First Timers Club, as in your first real watch. With yellow, pink, siren blue, and night blue dial colors, coupled with contrasting index markers and in some cases California dials, the aesthetic remains youthful and playful in general. Personally, I have the Club Datum, which has a terrible date mechanism that isn't quickset, but it's my most fun, summery, happy watch, and I wear it practically all summer. As for the Club Sport, the Neomatic with the bracelet in petrol and polar are the newest models in the line at 37mm. The thing to note about the Club Sport compared to the other models is a more restrained color palette. The polar and petrol colors are not as much Miami Vice anno 1985, but much more Miami Vice 2006. These colors are meant to fit into a more restrained wardrobe and to appeal to still adventurous, but overall more conservative tastes. Okay, it's for older people. That's the fact. It's for older people that are done with pink t-shirts, Hawaii florals, and instead want a plain white Oxford shirt. The Club Campus is for Jeff Goldblum. The Club Sport Pneumatic is for Brad Pitt or David Beckham, if, they weren't promoting those other brands. The easiest way to say this is that these dials are exceptional. The closest comparison I have are the mint green and bright blue fluted motifs on the Datejusts, or the Seamaster 300 with blue bezel and grey wave dial. They aren't comparable colors, but they compare similarly visually. The colors are clearly distinct on the Nomos from the more standard blacks, blues, and whites of the watch world, but they're also not the usual greens. There's an earthiness to Nomos' colors that work really, really well. The greens you usually see out there are too much and will be divisive for those looking for a daily wearer, where I think these 2 colors are not like any other, but still restrained enough to fit into an everyday wardrobe. This is versatility like no other. Then there's the bracelet. I get it. People want steel bracelets. It's what the world wants, but by God, I wish people wouldn't buy it. From a commercial perspective, this is supposedly the right move for Nomos, but I think it's a mistake for 2 reasons. The first is practical. Nomos have stupid long lugs, and adding an inflexible steel bracelet makes it even wider. If you're a big guy or a big girl, it won't matter, but for average to smaller wrists, it's actually a little bit off, and it makes the watch seem a little bit off balance. The second is it just looks wrong. This is my personal opinion, of course, but this watch is meant to be worn on a strap. At 18mm, the lug width is on the narrow side, but on the sites where I buy my straps, I still had over 897 options to choose from in rubber, alligator calf, NATO, faux leather, vegan, you name it. Most people will tell you to always buy a watch with a bracelet, if for no other reason than for real sale purposes. But here I say, save a couple $100 and treat yourself to some extra straps instead. Both will work well with matte blacks, mocha leathers, matte and gloss variations with yellow, green, blue base tones. It's important to me to always try and present 3 alternatives that deliver a similar aesthetic, and I will do that here again. I already mentioned the Datejust, but it's important to note that I specifically mean compared to the mint green and bright blue dials in the line. It's this combo on an Oyster that will get you a very similar vibe. My second choice is the Cartier Santos Dumont in blue. This is also a very sporty watch with a clear, mature aesthetic that just oozes style. The Roman numerals lend a touch of more old world sophistication to the watch compared to the Nomos. Finally, I actually had a really hard time finding a third watch that I thought visually could speak to the same user as the club. I couldn't find any color that came close, but I found a watch that, and I may have some paneristi kill me for this, but the Luminor Due Luna Rossa in white, 38 millimeters, comes pretty damn close. The PAM has the classic sandwich dial in a small diameter with a thin profile model. The fonts used for the dial numerals are very, very similar to the club, and therefore the overall vibe is very similar to the Nomos. Yes, you can't dive with the PAM, but the overall aesthetic is super similar, and I really, really like it. Everybody has their favorites, and for me, Nomos is pretty high up there on the tier list. I'm of the firm opinion that everybody should have a Nomos in the collection. Their watches are well made and they're extremely affordable. You always find them at the watch dealers in your sort of the cheap to medium price section together with Longines, Oris and others. But honestly, I feel that they should have floor space next to Cartier and Jaeger sometimes, at least for their level of originality and their sheer unique aesthetic. Get a club, just don't get it with a bracelet. I'm having a blast doing these videos. And I also really appreciate that you take the time to comment. So if you have any thoughts on the steel bracelet and you think I'm wrong, if you have thoughts about the colors or the Nomos and your favorite brand, what's your favorite brand? Let me know in the comments. Thanks.